Okay, at the last moment, I was asked to sit in for, or stand in for Mr. Wagner. Yes, he's supposed to be here, but there's a meeting he had to attend at 2:30, maybe. I'm not quite sure. So he might attend before the end of the hour. So we're moving on to what you can see as far as our next chapter. We spent, what, maybe a week in the lab? Does that sound right?
Something like that.
Okay. Hopefully it was an enjoyable, hopefully a learning experience. I mean, that's the goal of that. What might have been the most difficult part, if any, for that?
Trying to be consistent.
Okay. And I think with practice, I think it's nothing that anyone's going to be a real expert on. Doesn't mean that you can't, but there again, it's one of them things to where you need to go grab that nice piece of paper that says graduate of Southeast Technical Institute or something to that effect. Okay. So, if I'm not mistaken, you prefer to take your own notes over this. That's why you did it last chapter. Does that sound correct? Okay. So therefore, moving forward then, and there's a couple videos in here that we may or may not get to that Mr. Wagner had placed in here. So moving forward with plants, what is everything that you see that you can tell me about plants? What would that include? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
They're green.
Okay, so if they are green, there's got to be a reason for that.
They're pigment.
Okay, what's the name of that pigment then? Yeah, it's chlorophyll. So then, if chlorophyll is the pigment, what would chloroplast possibly be? Something that's related. A special process will take place within the chloroplast. We did discuss it last semester. Starts with a P. Photosynthesis. That's right. Okay. So when it comes to that of trees, okay, as far as lumber is concerned, there's probably two main divisions. What would that don't name specific trees, but just in general, there are hardwoods and there are softwoods, okay? So, what might a softwood be? Do you know? No. Pine. That is the material that you would use for making 1x material or 2x material.
You asked Mr. D, we're really bad at trees as a class.
Okay, well, and that's okay. We won't expect you to be experts on that. One of the reasons that we like this is probably either ash or maple. So with that, is there much flexibility here? So maybe it would be. So those are considered as hardwoods. Pine is a softwood. Ash, oak, maple, those are hardwoods, okay? Can anyone else think of a soft one besides pine? You know it, you just don't know you know it.
Aspen?
Certainly not, I don't think it's maple. Birch, maybe. It's one that you would want to use outside because it does not rot with moisture. Cedar does not rot. Okay? So that's why people tend to use that type of a building material. Now, if we want to be a little more specific when it comes to trees, what might the difference be between conifers and deciduous trees? Just what? Okay, there's right. So deciduous trees do that. Just like that's why we call them deciduous teeth that you have. Nobody has your baby teeth anymore. You've lost all of them. Okay. So then conifers would be spruce, elm, pine. All those are, again, types of softwoods. Okay, so enough of an introduction of that. Moving forward then, what do we got here? Okay. So when we look at this, okay, now don't get bent out of shape about this. Okay, I'm sure Mr. Wagner can. Okay, so gymnosperms. Okay, we just talked about this. What about pine? Now, one of the things that's going to be in the plant kingdom, the difference between these two, one of them produces flowers, the other one does not. Conifers produce flowers? Okay, so then these will reproduce because of pine cones. Okay, so that's why you'd see that there in their reproductive structure. So what I'm presuming what this means is as plants evolved, okay, seeded plants, that's what angiosperms mean. These branched off of going forward, okay? And we probably have an activity to where you look at what we call monocots and dicots, okay? And then as we get further and further along, what can you tell me about tomatoes and peaches possibly? They're fruits. It's hard to wrap your mind around tomatoes being a fruit. Wouldn't you agree? Okay. Because why is it that we would say tomatoes are fruits?
It has juice, it comes from a tree, it's got seeds, it's just a fruit.
Not all of that is entirely accurate.
I don't know what you're saying over here.
Okay? Because you said come from a tree.
Well, it comes from a
Okay? So vascular plants, what would you guess if someone was going to see a vascular surgeon? What part of the body are they going to have worked upon? Not for why you might, not so much your heart.
Your inside, your organs.
Into your vein.
Okay, so blood vessels, blood vessels in general. Okay, so one of the things to keep in mind when we're talking about plants, okay, they have to be able to stand outside in hot weather. Okay, you're thirsty throughout the day, so it's pretty easy for animals and humans to just get up and walk to the drinking fountain and fill a cup, a bottle, or a mug of water and go ahead and take a drink. Well, plants obviously can't do that, so they even have to restrict their water loss, and that's something that we'll talk about probably later on excuse me, in this chapter. Okay, so there's three types of cells that make up this vascular portion. Okay, and what we're talking about is these. Parenchyma is the first type of cell that we'd be referring to. Right there. So then I'd be led to believe, okay, we talked about this, metabolic functions, okay? Why is it, if we're making reference to this, they're also talking about leaves? Why is that? Why would that be? Right, that's where photosynthesis is going to take place. That's right.
That was a lucky guess. So this would be a gram positive? So it's spherical shape?
You're joking, right?
These are plants on this.
Okay.
I was kidding.
That's good to know.
100%. Put it on the Bible. No.
Exactly. I'll be quiet.
Put stuff on gravel.
That's not what he was doing.
Okay, I believe, what do you think a vacuole might do?
That's the deal that lets
It stores.
water out.
It stores.
Yeah, it's going to have something to do with function of water, whether it's removing it or adding it. I do believe it's more so moving water is what a vacuole would do. So then, where do plants get their water from?
Roots.
Yeah, so it's absorbed, of course, through the soil in the roots, moves it through the roots, through the stems, into the leaves, where photosynthesis would take place. And then once these molecules of sugar are made, they will transport them back down through the stems and be stored in the roots. Okay? So if one's doing something that bothers the other, why don't you just get up and move? Pretty simple. Okay? Okay, does everyone have this content that wants it? Okay? How about now? Okay, I just want to get through this one. Then you'll probably start with this sclerenchyma tomorrow. But let's go ahead and get through here.
Mr. Kenny, back up talk to Mr. Johnson real quick.
Now? It can't wait? Well, if you don't know, okay, go ahead.
Tom?
You call me master from now on. Is that understood? Really quiet from now on.
So, with this, here's a clue. Found in parts of the plant that are for lengthening. Where would that be? No. More so in the stems. It's not that the roots don't elongate. Yes, they do. But here we're talking about certainly getting a lot taller more than anything else. Okay? And this would be a clue here. Cells that can stretch, which allows for bending and not breaking. One of the things that's why some of these trees can stand 20, 30, 40, 50, even 300 feet tall and not break, because they can certainly bend. That's what gives trees their strength. They can bend without breaking. Okay.
Can you stop farting, Tom? God.
again, just get up and move. You don't need to announce that to the whole class.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Okay, does everyone have this content that wants it?
Can I go to mom?
You know what I can't wait for?
I just hope I,
6:45 tomorrow morning.
I just hope I wake up in time.
It's our HB.
Next time you guys gotta yell at me.
I don't forget. Not yet.
All right. So I was informed that we can certainly do this, that this would possibly be beneficial for you.
It's fine.
All right.
What up? Hey, good.
Good job, Cecil.
I'm cook.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yes.
Flowering plant found all over the northern hemisphere. Its feathery leaves have natural astringent properties, and its scientific name, Achilleus, comes from Achilles, the Greek hero, who's said to have
I haven't drank water since.
Oh boy.
No.
For some reason this isn't displaying on here.
There's a woman.
We'll be there.
Okay, I can't get this to play on here. There's some function on here to share the computer screen, but that's okay. Okay, that's why I want your books, page 632.
Oh my god, I opened right up to page 540.
Okay. Start talking about some of these plant cells and tissues. Okay. Go a little further in depth on what you wrote down, and we will elaborate on that. Okay. 632, plant cells. Okay. You can identify a typical plant cell, like one in figure 1, by the presence of a cell in a large vacuole. Also, plant cells can have chloroplasts. However, there are many different types of plant cells with one or more adaptations that enable it to carry out specific function. 3 types of plant cells form most plant tissues. Together, they provide support, storage. Together, they provide storage and food productions, strength, flexibility, and support. Okay. So we're talking about parenchyma cells. Okay, these are the most flexible. They're thin-walled, found throughout a plant. Are parenchyma cells. They are the basis for many plant structures and capable of a wide range of actions or functions, including storage, photosynthesis, gas exchange, and protection. These cells are spherical in shape, and their cell walls flatten when they are packed tightly together, as shown in Table 1. An important trait of parenchyma cells is that they can undergo cell division when mature. Okay? When a plant is damaged, parenchyma cells divide and help repair it. Okay? That's one of the things that we do as well. Your skin cells will divide to create new tissue to cover a wound. Okay? Depending upon their function, parenchyma cells can have a special features. Some parenchyma cells have chloroplasts, also shown in Table 1. These cells often are found in leaves and green stems and carry on photosynthesis in producing glucose. Some parenchyma cells, such as those found in the roots and fruits, have large central vacuoles that can store substances such as starch, water, or oils. Okay, second type, collenchyma. If you've ever eaten celery, you might be familiar with collenchyma cells. That these cells make up those long strings that when you pull from the celery stalk. Collenchyma cells are plant cells that are often elongated and occur in long strands or cylinders that provide support for surrounding cells. As shown in Table 1, collenchyma cells can have unevenly thickened cell walls. As collenchyma cell grows, the thinner portions of the cell wall can expand. Because of this growth pattern, collenchyma cells are flexible and can stretch. Okay, we alluded to that earlier. That's why you probably find these in the stems, which enables plants to bend without breaking. Like parenchyma cells, collenchyma cells retain the ability to undergo cell division when mature. So we'll keep right on going. Since we got a little bit of time here, you'll talk about sclerenchyma cells tomorrow, but unlike parenchyma and collenchyma cells, these sclerenchyma cells are plant cells that lack cytoplasm and other living components when they mature, but their thick, rigid cell walls remain. These cells provide support for a plant, and some are used for transporting materials within the plant. Sclerenchyma cells make up the most of the wood we use for shelter, fuel, and paper products. Okay, there are two types of sclerenchyma cells: scleroids and fibers, as shown in Figure 1. You might have eaten scleroids. They are the gritty texture of pears. Scleroids are also called stone cells and can be distributed randomly throughout a plant. They are shorter than fibers and are somewhat irregularly shaped. The toughness of seed coats and nutshells results from the presence of scleroids. Scleroids also function in transport. A fiber cell is needle-shaped and has a thick cell wall, okay, and has a small interior space. When stacked end to end, fibers from a tough elastic tissue. Humans have used these fibers for making ropes, linen, canvas, and other textiles for centuries, shown in Figure 2. So when referring to Figure 1, that's your basic, okay, cell wall, okay. So when we're talking about a cell wall, that's how you differentiate between that of a plant and animal cell. One, because of that structure, also because of the chlorophyll that you would see within them. And then Table 1, as you can see, has the different types of structures that you would see within these various types of plant tissue. When we go over to the lab, I'm guessing at some point you'll draw out the difference between, yes, between that of what we call monocot stems and dicots, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe sclerenchyma fibers found in Table 1 on page 633, the sclerenchyma type to the right, I believe those are what we call, I want to say dicots, I believe. I do believe that's a dicot tissue, okay? But then if it's not dicot, it's certainly a monocot type of tissue. Okay, so that leaves us about 20 minutes left. I'm going to hand out your vocabulary. There's no formal due date for that. I would be led to believe that perhaps sometime next week, maybe Wednesday the 13th, perhaps. That's something that Mr. Wagner will determine upon his return from his meeting. But otherwise, that's where we'll stop for today. I'll hand out your vocabulary. You're free to work on that. We'll catch up to you next time.